What if you're not living the life that you want? Because in order to live the life that you want, you actually have to see yourself in a completely different way. What I've learned about the law of attraction, abundance, everything in regards to success actually has, if not everything, to do with quite a lot to do with self worth, but specifically intrinsic self worth. What if the life that you want is all the way over there because the way that you're living and the way that you see yourself is within the perception that what you want is not equal to who you are? If you view success as something that is separate from you and something that you have to run really far away for because it's all the way over there, success is all the way over there, or it's all the way over there, or it's in that relationship. Self-worth is in that relationship or that thing, but it's not here. And you have to wait for that thing or that person to feel worthy, and then with that, be successful. That means that it's not here. I've been making a couple videos recently about self-worth and transforming self-worth within yourself. And it's very important to understand this because if you see yourself as only worthy if, and that if is dependent on something out there, then one, it's unstable because it's not determined by you. And two, it's just creating a lot of distance between you and what it is that you want. Imagine, for instance, if you were to see that in order to be successful in life, it's actually less about seeing success as somewhere out there and instead just seeing it as already here. I mean, isn't it wild that we can feel elevate? Like, one of the biggest things to understand in regards to this is that it's much more of a feeling-based experience. Relationships are much more for a feeling-based experience than they are for anything else. And understanding that can totally transform how you approach this. You're not any more or less worthy because you have somebody in your life. You may perceive it that way. The issue is, the way that you perceive yourself is how you're going to experience life. If you perceive yourself as somebody who's only worthy if you have a relationship, then you're creating a lot of resistant and repellent energy in your sphere, in your experience of reality. And all of that stuff attracts back to you what it attracts back to you. The biggest obstacle that I see to success is an externalized self-worth, extrinsic self-worth. And the reason is because if you say to yourself, I am only worthy if I have that person in my life, then you're creating a bunch of space between yourself and what it is that you want. Your worth is tied to that person. Now you've created a massive responsibility on somebody else. And not only that, but you're also you're violating somebody else's boundaries, and that's not healthy. It's nobody else's responsibility to determine your worth. It's nobody else's responsibility to validate you and approve of you and to make you feel better about yourself. The unhappiest people out there, they attract other people that are unhappy. People that see themselves as unworthy and only worthy if somebody else is there with them attract people who also see themselves as unworthy and only worthy if another person's there. People that are intrinsically, inherently worthy, well, let me make this very clear. Everyone is intrinsically and inherently worthy. The issue is that a lot of people's childhood marring and scathing taught them to externalize their sense of self-worth. And so this is why they tie their self-worth to people and things outside of them. But the issue with that is that it creates a bunch of resistant and repellent energy pushing things away from them rather than attracting to them. Like literally, when you walk throughout life and you're like, I'm good either way. My worth is not dependent on you or that thing. I'm fucking good. Your energy dynamic is entirely different. And so then when you understand that and when you realize that, like think about it, for instance. I'll use this coffee as an example. Very good, by the way. Consider this coffee a person. And like coffee, I mean, it's a funny example because it gives you energy. So imagine that this coffee is a person. And this coffee's sense of self-worth is intrinsic. It sees itself as worthy, determined by itself, regardless of what anybody else has to say to or about it. So then, what kind of a life does this person live? Well, other than the inherent espresso with all of its energy, it is very attractive. Because other people see it and they're like, oh my god, that person's wholesome. They're very together. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has everything figured out. We've all got our shit. We are all a work in progress. But if you see yourself as only worthy if something out there determines your worth, then you're very shaky. You're all over the place. You're kind of just like something floating in the wind, trying to make sense of itself, attaching to things and people out there. Like, imagine this, right? So I like that example. Imagine you're just like a piece of paper floating in the wind. And you're very anxious because you're just floating and you're not really sure of yourself, and you're hoping that there's something out there that you'll land on and you'll attach to and will be attracted to you. And maybe like you reach out and you're looking for like a branch or like a tree or like a I don't know, a street post. You're looking for things out there to fulfill you. And don't get me wrong, I understand that we live in this 3D reality world, this physical reality where there are things and there are other people. And we also learn from a very early age to attach ourselves to, physically, emotionally, all these different things. Self-worth is a very unique thing in and of itself because it determines a lot. And if you don't determine it for yourself, you're going to find people out there that you're going to fight with that you'll have a hard time actually getting them to determine your self-worth. And I'm just like looking at it from the standpoint of a boundary dynamic. Again, it's nobody's responsibility to determine your worth. Just like it's not your responsibility to determine another person's worth. So I hope that I'm painting a clear picture on behalf of how important it is to understand that when you do not see yourself as intrinsically, inherently worthy, you create a lot of resistant and repellent energy in your life. That resistant and repellent energy keeps the things that you want at bay. Why? Because people that see themselves as only worthy if something out there tells them that they're worthy, people that see themselves that way, worth is just not natural for them. Not that it's actually not natural for them, but they see that it's not natural for them. And so with that, what they do is they project outwards rather than taking their power back on themselves. And validating themselves, determining themselves, approving of themselves. That's the difference in dynamic. So this whole thing of worth, it transforms when you take it back to yourself. You attract like crazy when you take it back to yourself and you stop giving that power away. Because that's your power. It's nobody else's power. You are worthy regardless of what anybody else has to say about it. You are worthy regardless of what you have in your life. You can let go, because the more you hold on, the more you create resistance and repellent energy.